G'day, Stu here from UAVfutures, and today, well, honestly, one of the most exciting videos I've ever done, because you can see I'm an absolute drone nut. I love FPV drone racing, and the reason I make these videos is to share that hobby with you guys, and that's exactly what this video is. Now, I get a ton of comments, Stuart, how cheap can I get into the hobby? Is it worth it? Yes, it's definitely worth it, but this video, this is for all you guys out there who kept asking and you want a cheap, good solution on how to get into the hobby. This is how to get FPV drone racing for about $200. Now, we're going to go through the whole process. I'm going to show you the kit. We're going to talk about the radio we picked. We're going to talk about the quad. You know, we've got our FPV goggles, the batteries, the chargers, everything you absolutely need. And don't be surprised, because this is $200 for everything. And a lot of people have spent out way more money. But if don't be surprised, for 200 bucks, and you're thinking, Stuart, how good is a $200 kit? Come on, aren't these things a little bit more expensive? I don't want to waste my money on junk. Let me tell you, check out this footage. These things are absolutely awesome. All this stuff is tried and tested. I've reviewed all these, and I'll leave all the links down below to everything that we talk about, because this is a serious kit. In my opinion, this is like the best value for money stuff out there. And if you get this kit and put it all together, you guys are going to absolutely rip it around. Anyway, so what we're going to do in this video, we're going to go through all the stuff that you need, and you know, whether you want to build it yourself, I'll talk about that option. I'll talk about if you want to pre-build. We're going to talk about our goggles. We're going to talk about our radio, our battery, and our charger. I'll show you how to put it together, and then the most important and the most exciting part, we'll take it out to the field, we'll thrash it around, and we'll have a good time. We'll also interview some other pilots as well and compare their really expensive kits to, you know, what these $200 bundles really go like. And a bit of a double bonus as well. What I want to do, I want to give one of these kits away. So I've got 2 goggles here, I've got 2 radios, I've got 2 quads. So what I'm going to do, I want one kit for me, because I want to be able to take it out and say, look, if some of my mates want to get into it, I just want to hand them that kit and they can go ham and wreck it and have a whole bunch of fun with it. And what I want to also do for you guys, so make sure you like and subscribe to this video, I want to give away a kit to you as well. So I'm going to be sending off a radio, a pair of goggles, a pre-built drone ready to rock and roll with a charger, and all you have to do is plug it in and you'll be ready to rock and roll. So make sure, I'll leave all the links down in the comments below as well for the giveaway details, and anything we talk about or use, whether it be the videos or all the links to where you can get all this stuff, definitely go and check the comments down below, because everything is going to be listed in there. I'm sure I put a lot of work into that description, so make sure you go and check that out right now. Just open it up and have a look. But enough rambling from me. Let's stick all this stuff on the bench, and I'll show you guys how to get FPV drone racing for 200 bucks. All right, let's do it. Alrighty, so let's have a look at what we actually get, and everything I talk about in this video, whether it be a build guide or whether it be a link to where you can actually get some of this stuff, everything is linked down in the comments, down in the description below, so definitely go and check that out. Now, what we're going to need in this build is we're going to need a radio, because obviously you need to control your drone somehow. You're going to need a drone. We're going to need a pair of goggles so we can actually see where we're going. And then you're going to need a battery to power it all, and also a little charger to power your battery. Now, everything we go through, we're going to go through these one at a time, and because this is just like a budget video for 200 bucks, I'm also going to open it up a little bit, and I'm going to give some other people some options. So you might only have $200, and that might be your absolute upper limit. But honestly, for like 10% more or 10 or 15% more, you can actually get so much more as well and turn it into an absolute race monster. So there's going to be a few little differences that I'll highlight. I'll give you some other options as well, saying, look, you can get this one, or if you want to spend just a little bit more, I think you're much better off getting this option. So look, it's going to be totally fine if you just want to stick to that 200. But there are going to be some other awesome options that I really recommend people jump into. So straight away, let's have a look at some of the constants. Let's have a look at the radio and then the goggles. And then once we've gone through the components, I'll show you how they all go together. They're very, very similar. You can mix and match any parts you like. And then the most fun part, what we'll do, we'll take it out to the field and fly it around. All right, let's have a look at our radio and our goggles, because these parts are fairly constant in our build. Now, the goggles that I'm going to recommend, I'm a big fan of these ones, and they are super cheap for what you get. I think these ones are some of the most unbelievably well-valued goggles on the market. These are the Eachine VR007 Pros. Now, I have a whole review dedicated, a whole review video dedicated just to these, and I'll leave a link to that up here if you want to go check that out. But these are some fantastic goggles that I think do the job really, really well. They have a nice big bright screen, so when you plug it in you can see a lot. I think they're fantastic value. So no matter what you get, depending on what you mix and match, I really think of these. You can't go wrong with these, because otherwise if you're looking at some of the other options, like if you want to get some of the other goggles, they can be up to like $300 US. They can even be more than this entire setup itself. So our goggles are an absolute must. The Eachine VR 007 Pros. Let's have a look now. Let's have a look at what radio we're going to be using. Now the radio we're using is the FlySky IA6, and this is the one I'm going to be going through most of the video and doing most of the setup with. This is a really good budget radio, and I actually have some friends who, despite having offers to fly with more expensive ones, they're more than happy with this. I know a lot of people around the world who really enjoy this radio because it's super cheap and it's still super reliable. Now it does take some batteries at the back, so you're going to need to get some AA's to put in there, but if you want to upgrade a little bit, I think the radio is a good place to do it because you're going to want a nice radio. And one of the options you do have, you could jump over to this for a little bit more. I'll link this down below as well. These both work exactly the same, but this is the IS, the FlySky IS radio. So this one is a little bit better. You know, you do have to pay just a small amount more. I can't remember exactly. I'll link it down below. But either one of these radios is going to do the job fantastically. If you're on a super strict budget, definitely I would say go for this one because there's nothing wrong with it. But if you want maybe a few little extra features or something like a touchscreen, you can't go wrong with this bad boy right here. Anyway, so that's the radio and the goggles out of the way. Now something that's not terribly exciting, but we're going to talk about the charger and the battery. And the reason I've got two here is because honestly, for about maybe $8 more or something like that, you can jump from a 3S setup into a 4S setup. Now if you're absolutely, this is probably my biggest recommendation out of everything I recommend, try to get a 4S battery. Look, there's nothing wrong with 3S, but you're not going to have outstanding performance, I guess, versus a 4S, because once you try 4S, you never want to go back, and for about $8, it makes such a difference. So I'm going to link these down below. So this is like a 3S charger and a 3S battery. All you simply do is plug it in, you're ready to rock and roll, you plug that end into the wall with your little cord, and that's going to charge up your battery. But I can't recommend this more than enough. This is the 4S charger that I really, really recommend to get this. This is the cheapest one I could find, and to get some 4S batteries. And batteries are really interesting in the whole world LiPos, depending on shipping or where you can get them from. Basically, what you want is a high C rating battery between 1,000 and 2,000 milliamp hours, and you want a 4S, so 14.8 volts out there. I'll leave a whole link of batteries down below anyway. This is the one I'm going to be using, but the beauty about this charger as well, you can take this out to the field when you're flying around. You can actually plug your battery in, and it will actually tell you, you know, what its voltage is and all that sort of stuff. So this one, it's on perfect voltage for balanced storage charge actually. So that's why I like this little charger, because it can actually save your batteries. You can use it when you're out in the field flying around, as well as using it to actually charge them up. So that's sort of the boring stuff out of the way. We've had a look at our goggles, which are awesome value. We've had a look at our two radios, and I can't recommend enough. Look, you've got your two sort of battery types, whether you want to go 3S or 4S. Please go 4S, because it's going to mean you've got so much more power. It's an absolute blast. 3S is still super fun, and that's how I started, but 4S is where it's at. Now let's look at the good stuff. Let's have a look at our drones that we're going to be flying. Drones, what do you mean drones, Stuart? Do we get two drones? No, absolutely not. You only get really one of these, and but I wanted to put two on the table because some people like to build their own drones, and honestly, this is where it's at if you want maximum value. This is my $99 build, and we'll talk about this later. But if you just want to get something that's pre-built, like you can get one of these. This is the Eachine Wizard. This was my drone of the year last year. I'll link this down below as well, because you can actually get this one. It is ready to rock and roll. You can buy it either just like this, where you put your own radio with it, or you can buy it in a kit where it comes pre-bound to a radio, ready to rock and roll. So it's a little bit more expensive, not too much. It's still awesome value, and that's why it was drone of the year, for my pick of drone of the year for last year. But that's why I've got this one on here, because not everyone wants to build. Some people just want to fly, and they might not have the confidence to build their own, which is what we're going to talk about in the remaining of this video. But this is definitely an option. You can still do 99% of the stuff that we're going to do with this one. They're very, very similar. The performance is very, very similar, although I do think if you build it yourself and put some of your own components, you can make something that's a little bit quicker for a little bit less, because you don't have to pay someone to build it. But this is definitely an option. You know, if you want to spend that little bit of extra money and get it built for you, that's definitely an option that you can do. Now, speaking of the Wizard, I love this one so much, and this is the one I'm going to be giving away in the giveaway. So if you're interested in that, definitely check the description down below, because I have all that, because I'm a big fan of the Wizard. Honestly, there's nothing wrong with it. But what we're going to do for the remaining of the video, let's talk about this one right here. This is my $99 build. Now, for me, this drone is where it's at for 99 bucks. And look, I'm going to leave a full build video that goes through everything from start to finish, from opening the packages to finishing up with a drone like this. I'm going to leave a link down in the description below, and I'll leave a little link that should flash up here, a little card. So if you want to know exactly how to put this together, definitely go and check that video out. Now you'll notice this one is a little bit different to the one in the video. Like the motors are a different color. I think I do have a different camera in the front, and I'll link all the parts you need to build this drone down below in the description as well, because I gave my last $99 build away. So what I had to go and do, I had to go and build another one, but I absolutely love this drone, and I've got to say I'm a little bit sorry here. I've got a little confession to make. This one is a little bit dirty because I took it out last weekend to get some footage and I absolutely loved it. I loved it so much. I flew it all day and none of my other drones even got a chance to fly because I was having such a blast with this one. And don't be fooled and think just because it's like $99 or there's a few little upgrades in this one, but just because it's around $100, this thing has some serious performance. Alright, with all that said and done, what we need to do, I'm going to show you guys how to put it together, then we're going to also talk about how we can easily program it on the PC. Now, if you're one of the people that got the pre-built Wizard, or even more, you got one that came with the radio as well, you don't need to really do this step because it's all going to be ready. You pretty much just need to plug it in and go have some fun. But for everybody else, if you're playing along at home, what we're going to do now, I'm going to show you how you can take your radio and we're going to bind it up to our quad. Because if you don't get that done, nobody's going to be doing any flying. Now this procedure is going to be the same no matter sort of what radio you're using, whether you're building your own quad, whether you're using a pre-built, something like the Eachine Wizard or something like that. This procedure is going to be pretty much the same. But the first most important thing that I want everybody to do, make sure you take your props off. Do not do this with your props on because it can be dangerous if something goes wrong. Anyway, let's cut down. What we're going to do, let's cut to what it looks like with the props off, and I'm going to take the top off the quad right here and then we'll have a look. Alrighty, so that's a bit safer. All I've done, I've unscrewed the top, I've taken the props off, and now we've got access to our flight controller. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how we hook up our receiver to our flight controller so they're talking together. Now what I want to do, I'm going to zoom in here because the three little pads we're going to be soldering to are in a little bit here, so we're going to zoom in. I'm going to show you how simple it is in a matter of seconds to hook up your receiver to your flight controller. Alrighty, so in this quad we've got the SP F3 flight controller, which is a really basic but still really powerful flight controller. And what we need to do, it's really simple. We need to have some way to power our receiver so it's going to get some voltage, and also we need some way for our flight controller to send a signal to it. And it's super simple to set up. You notice you've got some pads right here, so you've got a ground and a positive, which are going to be used for the power and the voltage. And then we've also got a little one called RX, which is exactly where we're going to be connecting up our receiver. So the first thing I want you to do is simply strip the ends of these wires. So that means just take off a little bit of silicon, and then we're going to hit them up with a little bit of solder, and then they should be able to join very easily on there. Now look, if you're doing this for the $200 version, that means you've built your own drone, so this part's going to be no dramas. We're just putting a little bit of solder on our wires right here, and then we're going to hook it up straight to our flight controller. Now if you have decided to upgrade and use a little bit of a different radio, or maybe a Tyrannus or something like that, this procedure is very similar. So you're just going to be pretty much hooking up a different receiver. Anyway, in this case, so that little first one right there, that's the ground, so I'm going to solder in my ground wire. Should be very quick, in and out. Then we've got the voltage wire, so I'm going to hook up my voltage wire. In and out. And then finally this one on the outside where it says RX, a receiver. And then that's it for my soldering. That's how easy it is to get this receiver ready to rock and roll. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to zoom out a little bit and then I can show you how we plug it in and get it working. Okie dokie, so before we go any further, what we need to do, we need to set up our radio so it's properly configured, because we don't need to do any more soldering. And before we plug in the receiver, we're going to turn on our radio. It should take 2 seconds, and what we need to do, so we're going to go into the menu by holding OK. We go into our setup, we're going to scroll down till we get to RX mode, and what we're going to do, we're going to make sure that PPM is on. So if that's in off, all you need to do is make sure you go into on, and you also hold cancel. That's a little tip. Hold cancel will actually save your menu. Now what we need to do, we're going to go back, we're going to come back to this part and set up the fail-safe, but before we do that, there's something else we need to do. We need to set up our switches. So we're going to go back out, and we're going to go into the setup, function setup, go to this one, auxiliary channels. And what we want to do, we want to set up auxiliary 5 and auxiliary 6. So auxiliary 5, here we go, which is this one right here. I want to deal with this one. We're going to change that. I'm going to change mine to this one, SWD. There we go, so that's looking good. And I'm going to make SWA for my switch number 6, which is this one up here. That's all good. I'm going to hold cancel to save that right there. And then what we can do, we can go exit out of this. We need to go back over to our system, down to RX setup, down to, and this is where we're going to set up our fail-safe. And fail-safes are really important, and what that means, that's going to stop your drone from flying away if you ever lose contact with your radio. So go into your fail-safe, go down to this channel, channel 3, which is our throttle channel, which is really important. Go into here, turn that on. I'm going to save that. You see it's at minus 98%. And I'm going to go down, I'm going to turn channel 5 to my off as well, or minus 100%, because that's what my arm switch is going to be, and that's what I want when I'm flying around. I'm going to use this switch to make sure my quad is armed. And then that's pretty much it. We're ready now to bind our radio. So with those things done, we're pretty much ready now to plug in our radio, hold the buttons on this, and the two are going to start talking to each other. What I'm going to put my radio to the side just for 1 second. I'm going to plug in my little receiver right here. So, and the way that works, if you're using this radio, signal wise at the top, then you've got your voltage and then your ground, and then another really important part in your little pack, you would have got this. This is your binding pin, so this lets you know when you turn it on with this plugged in. It goes over this side in the far part right there, so you can see on the furthest one to the edge. That's there. That's going to make sure this radio is ready. It's going to be looking out for any radio, that this receiver is going to be ready, looking for any radio that's ready to talk to it. So with that said, now what we can do, we're going to plug in. I've turned off my radio. I'm going to plug in my quad. You can see the little LED there is flashing. That means it's ready. It's looking for a radio. I'm going to turn on my radio, but I am going to hold down this button right here. There we go. And now you can see we've actually got an extra bar here. The LED stopped flashing. I'm going to take off the bind pin because we don't need that anymore. Flick our arm switch that we assigned before. Look at that, ready to rock and roll. It's all under our command, and if we turn our radio off, hopefully our quad stops as well. Look at that. So if you ever lose connection, you're not going to have a flyaway. Now what we need to do, I'll turn that off. Now what we need to do, let's set up our VTX channel, and I'll show you just how easy it is to match it to your goggles, because honestly, that is the simplest thing. It's going to take about 2 seconds. So let's do that, then we can go out and have a fly. All right, now this part is super simple. All you need to match it up to your goggles, simply, we're going to power our goggles on, and you notice we're probably going to get a bit of static right here. So we're not going to be able to see anything just yet. And then what we do, we plug it in, and this VTX is fantastic in this build. This is why I really like it. You notice you're going to have a little display here. Now look, you guys aren't going to be able to see it too much. Mine is flashing up at A4, so that means it's on band A, channel 4, and our goggles will be able to pick that up. But to change the channel, all you simply need to do is press the button at the back, and that will cycle through the channels. So now that's plugged in, we should be able to find somewhere on our quad, if we cycle through, somewhere in our goggles, if we cycle through, we should be able to find the video. There it is. There's channel A4. And if you're confused about the channels, it's really, really simple. I'll leave some links down below anyway, like some little tables that show you exactly what channel is what. But yeah, overall, now we've got our FPV feed. When our quad is rocking around, flying around super fast, we're able to see exactly where we're going to be able to pull off some really cool, really fun races with your mates. So that's it. That's how simple it is. For about 200 bucks or a little bit more if you want to put some of those upgrades in, you're ready to rock and roll. You're ready to go off to the races. All we need to do is put our props on and then go and have some fun. One thing I almost forgot actually, one very special thing we need to do, we're going to plug it into the computer. I'm going to show you how to set up your flight controller in about probably 30 seconds or so, what you need to do to make sure that your quad is going to do exactly what you want it to do. Then we'll pop our props on and we're ready to have some fun. Now you're going to have to forgive me, I've got a really old computer here, so you're just going to have to watch my filming of the screen, but it's super simple to go through anyway, so don't worry if you're not tech savvy. All you've got to do, we're going to hit connect. I'm using Betaflight, which is the right program that's flashed to it. If yours doesn't, I'll leave some links down below to where you can get Betaflight from it anyway. And what we're going to do, I'm going to go to the first thing I want to do is click on the ports and make sure our serial RX right here under UART3 is enabled. Then I'm going to hit save and reboot. I'm going to go down, go to configuration, and probably the part you probably need to do, make sure that your flight controller is orientated the right way. If you've got the pre-built, you don't need to worry about any of this. But if you've built your own, make sure whatever way you've put your flight controller, make sure that it's facing the correct direction. You need to go down here. If you're using the radio that I've selected, go in and we're going to be putting it on serial-based receiver. And I'm going to be using S-Bus because that's the one that our radio talks in. Save and reboot. Now, very quickly in PID tuning, you don't need to do too much in here. That's where you can make it more snappy, more responsive, or less responsive, I guess. In here, if you're using the same radios that I've recommended, the FlySky ones, we can just leave this on default. And then pretty much all we need to do, go into our arm modes. I'm going to kill both of these just so I can show you how easy it is to set up. So that 5th channel that we set up to get our quad to arm, I'm going to make that just here. So that's auxiliary 1. And then you don't need to worry about air mode, but if you do, I like to have it up in the upper portion of my quad. And then go down. If you want your quad to self-level, sort of to give you a little bit more, like it'll self-level itself out, it won't sort of stay in its constant. I like to fly in acro, which is exactly how this is set up. But if you want your quad to self-level, simply make yourself another auxiliary switch on your radio. That's it. Your quad's ready to rock and roll. Alrighty, so that's it. Drone's ready, drone's bound, drone's programmed to the computer. We've got our VTX channel on the right channel. Our goggles are ready to rock and roll. Let's go have a blast. Let's go have a lot of fun. So let's cut down to the field and do some FPV drone racing in 3, 2, 1. Alrighty, so we're out here in the field. It's time to have some fun. We've got our drone, we've got our goggles, they're all set up. We've got our cheap radio, so for 200 bucks, let's have some fun, rip some batteries, and I'm going to show you some recordings of this thing flying around and just how much fun you can have now for about 200 bucks to get into the hobby and actually do some FPV drone racing with some good gear. All right, let's do it. Let's have some fun. Now these things, look at that, they have plenty of power, so don't be worried and think, gee, is this a budget kit? Look how quick these things are. These are definitely some full-scale professional racers, plenty of power to totally zip past anybody that you're racing. And that's something I really want to point out too. Like if you're thinking, gee, am I going to be competitive? Absolutely, you'd be surprised. I smashed it all day, and everybody I was racing down here absolutely destroyed when I was flying them around. This quad, if you've got the skills, you can definitely push it very, very fast. Now what I want to do, we're going to hand it over to some other pilots and sort of compare this kit to their kit, how much they spent. I'll be rolling some more FPV footage at the end of this video if you really want to watch like a bit of a longer flight and some more flights and some more fun. But what I really want to do, I want to hand it over to some other pilots who've been flying for quite a while, and we'll get their impressions as well, because they've spent quite a money and invested in the hobby. So it's going to be interesting to see what do other people think, not just my opinion, but what do some real professional pilots out there think about getting their hands on a $200 kit, and what sort of value is there out today compared to what it used to be like in the past. So let's hand it over to those pilots right now. Alrighty, so I've just flown around. I think it's pretty amazing what you can get with about 200 bucks, but we're going to interview Grumpy Trev, have a quick look at his gear, and then what does he think about, you know, beginners getting something like this. So we'll ask some other pilots. So it's just not what I think, it's probably some other people have been flying for a long time, and we'll get their impressions as well. $200 kit, and what would you say versus what you sort of started with, and how much money did you spend? What do you think about, you know, for 200 bucks and all that sort of jazz?
Well, for 200 bucks, I can't believe how well this goes. My first setup, just the frame, was $150 US. 200 bucks for the lot, yeah, is a gift, and these fly all right. These goggles are great, little transmitter's great too, so look, you can't go wrong. If you're getting into it, it's not a lot of money to spend, and if you don't like it, it doesn't matter. It's just 200 bucks. Do
you think it's good kit for 200 bucks though?
It's like a shit-hot kit for 200 bucks. I wish this was out when I was starting to get into it, because it would have saved me a fortune. 200
bucks to have that kit for someone wanting to get into the hobby, what would you say?
It's amazing, like only spending 200 bucks on this whole kit. Like I spent probably 500 bucks just on a quad initially, and now they're just so cheap and so good to fly. Like the electronics has come a whole long way, and it's just, the price has come down so much. Why wouldn't you? Like it flies great, and it's carbon fiber, it's going to bounce, and it's great kit.
Look, that's really insane compared to how it was when I first started about 2 years ago. It's crazy. You get your goggles. I think I started with some quantum goggles, which were about 60 bucks on, and these are cheaper than those even, and better. I started with a Tyrannus. It was about 350 Australian dollars. To get all of this for 200 US dollars is just, it's crazy. It's a great way to get into the hobby, and I'd recommend anyone who's interested, give something like this a go. You're not going to be too far out of pocket. It's good stuff.
Alrighty, so there it is. There's how to get into FPV drone racing for about 200 bucks. And honestly, if you're thinking about getting into the hobby and you're not too sure and you just want to get your toes wet, I think you can't go wrong with a kit like this. Compared to, you know, it's not too much money compared to some of the other kits out there that are a lot more expensive, and this thing is still packed full of performance. You're going to have an absolute blast, and you know, if you've got the skills, you can definitely outperform some of those other pilots. Just because their quads might be a little bit more expensive doesn't mean you can't rip around the track a little bit faster. Now, don't forget, everything I talk about is linked down in the comments below. All the items that you're going to need, all the build videos, everything we absolutely cover in this video is all linked down below. below. Now, if you're interested in the giveaway, definitely like and subscribe to this video and just drop a comment down below, you know, either where you shared this video to share this sort of passion with somebody else, or how would this kit help you, and you know, what do you think about this kit? Either one of those things is going to be fine. I'll leave some sort of descriptions down below about the giveaway anyway with the full details, but I guess all there really is to do now is to take it around, show you guys some flight footage of this thing, absolutely killing it. And yeah, if you're new to the channel as well, definitely subscribe, because I do a whole bunch of videos on drone racing and all this sort of stuff, because I absolutely love this hobby. But subscribe for more FPV related content, and as always, happy flying. Alrighty, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. Definitely subscribe if you're new to the channel and check out these videos. And I'm also going to leave a little link here to my Patreon page, because I've got some fantastic Patreon supporters and I like to give back to them as well. So if you want to join the UAVfutures family, there's things like bonus Velcro straps, little bundles of FPV goodies and things like that that also get sent out. Anyway, happy flying.